In a market like Zimbabwe, where the clothing industry is hemorrhaging from the influx of clothes bales, where pieces of clothing can retail for as low as $1, one might want to ask how a fashion entrepreneur can make inroads into such an aggressive market. Bakari Sibanda is one such entrepreneur, the founder of an African print-focused clothing brand called By Bakari that produces trendy-looking threads from a material that is commonly associated with the opposite of trendy. Bakari was actually not a fan of African print, not because of its design but because of what it is associated with. African print is considered to be an attire worn by the older folk for cultural functions and in some instances has a negative connotation when a couple is seen in matching outfits of African print. The assumption is that the man in the relationship is wearing the outfit under duress. Such reasons were enough to deter Bakari from African print. So how then does one come from detesting it to building a brand solely off it?
Very funny, I used to hate African print. It was because it was associated with very negative perceptions. It was either the older people, like the old generation, or when you see maybe a woman and if a couple, they're wearing maybe the same print, they're like, until this particular day, a friend of mine was selling prints. And because I didn't like it, I was like, no, you know what, I'm not interested. It's like, oh, let me just show you. And for some reason, I saw one particular one that I looked at instantly. I was like, wow, that is nice. I would probably make a shirt and shorts out of it. I bought that print, had my friend make me a pair of shorts and a shirt. And I wore it to an event. The minute I stepped in, everyone was like, wow. So then I realized, okay, so it wasn't me hating African print. It was me hating how African print has been depicted over the years.
Once business starts getting traction, it is natural for most to want to build a physical presence. It's somewhat of a crowning achievement and a confirmation to the founder that their hustle is now a legitimate business. And in a market like Zimbabwe, where shoppers prefer seeing the product in person, this was the way to go. But soon Bakari came to the realization that the foot traffic he was getting paled in comparison to the traffic he was getting from social media, leading him to close down the shop and invest just $60 per month in ad revenue on Instagram.
75% of my sales come from social media. I closed that shop because of that. Besides the fact that the rentals were high, people were not coming in. Someone who would see, I'll post a jacket on Instagram and someone would be like, I want that. Can you courier it to me? Even if they're in Harare, someone is not going to come into the store because they're going to see the jacket on Instagram and say, I want it. Can you send it to me? And I'll send you your money.
The quality and design that Bakari has a taste for is primarily sourced from Zambia, a neighboring country to Zimbabwe. There are some logistical challenges and costs associated with sourcing materials across the border. There is a scout that looks for the materials in Zambia, the costs of shipping the materials here, and associated import tax. There is a fine balance needed to manage the logistics to keep the costs at a minimum.
I have to send the money through remittance services. Yeah. That charges me. I have to pay the guy because he'll be like, he's going to walk around looking for the fabric. I have to pay him for that. I have to pay the transportation for the guys bring the fabric here. And I have to pay the 20%. For 10 pieces, it's about between $200 and $250.
Once the materials are in the shop, there are labor costs, utilities, rentals for the base of operations, consumables like threads, buttons and zippers, and capital expenditure on the equipment itself to turn the vibrant-looking fabric into trendy and modern pieces of fashion. In scenarios where Bakari has been adventurous in their designs, too adventurous in fact for their own sewing equipment, they have had to outsource their tailoring.
My puffer jackets, I do not have the kind of machines that can be able to sew through the thickness of the jackets. I'll have to cut the jackets and take them to someone who has that kind of machine, and I have to pay them that. Then you have to buy the fabrics. Then you need a specific type of thread, the usual thread that you use with other jackets. You need a stronger zip that's going to be able to withhold the thickness of the jacket.
All this then feeds into the pricing of their products. It's not cheap when compared to the items of clothing picked up from bales, but what you're buying here is creative expression of authenticity in fashion, something that when you wear it is distinct and unique. Creative partnerships are ways in which two brands can expand their portfolios through collaboration and exchange of skills and expertise. The best aspects of one brand merged with the best aspects of another brand to produce even more desirable products. It's a win-win, especially with small and upcoming brands that can benefit from increasing their footprint. It does come with its fair share of risks, seeing it involves sharing trade secrets with your direct competition.
If you see someone coming through and saying they want to collaborate, unfortunately, they are only thinking about themselves. I've learned this the hard way. I have a situation where I wanted to work with one creator. We came and we talked and they were very excited. A week down the line, guess what happens? I see someone, the exact same thing that we discussed. They already produced it and they're advertising it as theirs. And they posted it on Twitter. People could pick up my aesthetic. Everyone was taking me under that post. Like, dude, we can tell that's because aesthetic.
Investment is another avenue a small and upcoming business can recapitalize and grow its operations. Quite a number of parties have shown an interest in investing in Bai Bakari. However, Bakari is not too keen on losing ownership and, more crucially, creative freedom of his brand, something that is always a big point of discussion with any investor.
So it's been 110% to myself. I've been very skeptical. I've had people approach me with interest to invest. I worry about people trying to bring in their say into my creative area. So I become scared at times when someone comes in and they want to say, oh no, don't do things this way, try and do things this way. I'm still looking for it. I'm talking to someone who's showing interest in investing, and I'll see how that goes.